Hope you have found this video useful. The best way to support the channel and ensure you don't miss our next upload is to subscribe. Thanks for watching. Part 37.33 Surah As-Saffat, the arranged in ranks, the limits of deception and the reality of celestial ranks. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah wa barakatuh. Welcome back to Sufi Essence with Hammad Syed. We are entering the climactic final section of Surah As-Saffat. In our previous episode, we witnessed the great purification, the act of tasbih, that cleanses the divine name from the stains of human imagination and the dark myth of kinship with the jinn. We saw how the Maqām, the chosen servants, are the only ones anchored in the truth, while the world drowns in conjecture. Today, in part 37.33, we explore the boundaries of influence and the majestic organization of the unseen. In verses 161 through 163, the Quran delivers a staggering blow to the power of idols and their worshippers, revealing that deception only works on those already destined for the fire of their own making. Then, in verses 164 and 165, the discourse shifts back to the title of the surah. The angels themselves speak, declaring their known stations and their ranks. This session is a journey from the impotence of falsehood to the immutable order of the heavens. We are looking at how the spiritual universe is structured, and why the ego cannot tempt a heart that is truly surrendered to Allah. Verse 161. The scope of the temptation, Kanzelaman, Quran, Surah As-Saffat, the arranged in ranks. Chapter 37, verse 161. So you and what you worship. Linguistic analysis. The verse begins with finicum, so surely you. The sofa connects this verse to the previous dismantling of pagan logic. The phrase wemdi tabudern and what you worship includes everything from stone idols and celestial bodies to the modern idols of wealth, fame, and the self-nafs. Linguistically, the verse groups the worshipper and the worshipped into a single category. In the eyes of truth, the idol and the idolater are part of the same closed loop of delusion. Exegetical depth. This verse starts a challenge that defines the limit of spiritual deception. Exegetically, Allah is addressing the Makkans and all those who propagate false theologies. He is acknowledging their effort to mislead others. However, by grouping them with their idols, Allah highlights their mutual dependency. The idol has no power without the worshipper's imagination, and the worshipper has no direction without the idol's shadow. It is a union of falsehood. This verse sets the stage for the revelation of how little power this union actually possesses. Sufi, spiritual interpretation, in the Sufi path. What you worship is everything that occupies the heart to the exclusion of Allah. This verse refers to the circle of illusion to Ayarata Wom. You and your desires are one. If you worship your ego, you are trapped in the ego. The Sufi understands that the you mentioned here is the nafs al-amra, the commanding self. This you and its idols are trying to tempt the spirit away from its source. However, this verse is a reminder of separation. The spirit of the believer is not part of this you. There is a part of the human being, the ruh, that stands outside of this circle of temptation. Historical ethical insight. Ethically, this verse teaches the law of association. You become what you worship. Historically, it was a direct address to the Quraysh, telling them that their social power and their idols were inextricably linked. It teaches us the ethics of spiritual company. Be careful of what you center your life around, for you and that center will be judged as one entity. Legal, jurisprudential insight. Jurisprudentially, this verse establishes the unity of the crime in the divine court. The act of shirk involves both the subject, the human, and the object, the idol. This provides the legal basis for the destruction of idols, not just physical statues, but the legal removal of false authorities from the life of the community. It legally defines the worshipped as a co-conspirator in the misguidance of the soul. Hikam. Aphoristic interpretation. The bird and the cage are both in the room. If you worship the cage, you will never see the window. You and your idols are traveling the same road. If the idol is made of dust, your destination is the dust. Break the idol, and you will finally be free to find the hymn. Verse 162. The limit of deceptive power, Kanzelaman. Surah As-Saffat, the arranged in ranks. Chapter 37, verse 162. Cannot tempt anyone against him. Linguistic analysis. The verse continues the sentence. Ma'antum, alai by fafinjan, you are not against him able to tempt, mislead. The word fafinjan comes from fitna, which refers to a trial that burns or smelts to reveal what is inside. Linguistically, it means to lead astray through temptation. The preposition allied against concerning him is crucial, means they cannot lead anyone away from the path of Allah through their own power. Exegetical depth. This is a verse of divine immunity. Exegetically, Allah is declaring that the power of falsehood is not absolute. The idolaters and their devils think they have the power to steal souls from Allah. This verse corrects that view. You do not have the power to mislead anyone whom Allah has protected. It reveals that temptation is not a force of nature, but a test of sincerity. Falsehood only has as much power as a person gives it. Against the presence of Allah, the temptation of the idol is as weightless as a spider's web. Sufi, spiritual interpretation. For the seeker, this is the station of hifq, divine protection. When the heart is filled with the dhikr remembrance of Allah, becomes temptation-proof. The ego nafs and the world dunya can scream, but they cannot tempt the one whose eye is fixed on the beloved. The Sufi understands that the temptation only works on the cracks in the heart. If the heart is a whole salarm, there is no entry point for the lie. This verse is a celebration of spiritual sovereignty. You are not a victim of your environment. You are only a victim of your own lack of presence. Historical ethical insight. Ethically, this verse promotes individual agency. No one can make you lose your faith. Historically, it encouraged the small group of Muslims in Makkah who were being pressured and tortured. It told them, they cannot tempt you away from Allah unless you let them. It teaches us the ethics of internal fortitude, the realization that the ultimate power over your soul belongs to you and Allah, not to the tempters. Legal jurisprudential insight. Jurisprudentially, this verse establishes that misguidance is a choice in divine law. The tempter is guilty of the crime of invitation, but the tempted is guilty of the crime of acceptance. This verse provides the legal basis for personal accountability. You cannot blame the idol or the society for your lost state, for their power to tempt was never absolute. It legally protects the free will of the believer. Hikam, aphoristic interpretation. The sun cannot be hidden by a hand. The tempter is only a mirror of your own desire. If you are not looking for the lie cannot find you. Law is the fortress. Stay inside, and the wolves of temptation can only howl at the moon. Verse 163. The destined of the fire, Kanzelamon, Surah As-Saffat. The arranged in ranks, chapter 37, verse 163. Except him who is to reach the blazing fire. Linguistic analysis. The exception is ill. Except. The target is man hu aglia, he who is burning, reaching the blazing fire. The word gli refers to someone who is already in the process of entering or being exposed to the heat. Ya'em refers to the intense, roaring flame of the abyss. Linguistically, it connects the tempted to their destination, as if it is an inevitable identity. Exegetical depth. This verse explains who can be tempted, exegetically. The only people who succumb to the fabrications and idols are those whose internal state is already fire-like. They are the ones who have chosen the flame of passion, arrogance, and denial over the light of truth. The temptation only works on someone who is Gliel Ya M, someone who has already sold their soul to the lower realms. This is a profound statement on spiritual magnetism. The fire of the world only attracts those who are destined for the fire of the hereafter. Sufi spiritual interpretation. In Sufism, the fire begins in this world as the fire of desires nar, al-shawa. The person who is reaching the blazing fire is the one whose heart is already burning with greed, anger, and ego. Because they are already on fire, the temptations of the idolaters feel warm and familiar to them. The Sufi seeks to extinguish this internal fire with the water of certainty. This verse warns us. If you find yourself easily tempted by falsehood, check the temperature of your heart. Are you already reaching the fire? To be saved from the fire of the next world, you must first put out the fire of the ego in this world. Historical ethical insight. Ethically, this verse is a warning against affinity. do not have an affinity for the fire-like qualities of the world. Historically, it referred to those Makkans who were so hardened in their ways that their path to the Yam was already manifest. It teaches us the ethics of self-examination. We must constantly check if our direction is toward the light of the throne or the heat of the abyss. Legal jurisprudential insight. Jurisprudentially, this verse defines the class of the lost. In divine law, those who are destined for the fire are those whose deeds have surrounded them so completely that they are no longer temptable by the truth. This provides the legal concept of the sealed heart. It shows that the blazing fire is not an arbitrary punishment, but the logical legal conclusion for a soul that has rejected every authority and book provided by Allah. Hikam, aphoristic interpretation. The moth doesn't fly into the flame by accident. It is looking for the light, but finds the heat. If your heart is cold toward Allah, you will seek warmth in the fire. The temptation is only a map to the place you have already decided to go. Change your destination, and the tempter will lose your address. Verse 164, the declaration of the celestial stations Kanzel-Aman. Surah As-Saffat, the arranged in ranks. Chapter 37, verse 164. And the angels say, every one of us has a known station. Linguistic analysis. The speakers shift to the angels Al, Malbieka. The phrase Wem Dominin, and there is none among us, followed by Illahu. Maqām Ma LM, except he has a known station. The word Maqām refers to a place of standing, a rank, or a spiritual degree. Malem means known, fixed, and predetermined, linguistically. This is a declaration of divine order and cosmic discipline. Exegetical depth. This verse is the angels' response to the pagan claim that they were daughters or kin. They declare their true identity. They are ranked servants. Exegetically, it reveals that the unseen world is not a chaos of independent gods, but a highly structured hierarchy of obedience. Every angel from Gabriel to the smallest guardian has a station that they never leave. They do not have wills that conflict with Allah. Their station is their duty, and their duty is their existence. This verse restores the dignity of the servant, showing that the highest honor is to have a known station in the service of the king. Sufi, spiritual interpretation, in the Sufi path. The known station refers to the reality of spiritual degrees. Not everyone is at the same level. There are made stations of patience, gratitude, love, and gnosis. The Sufi understands that they must find their known station, their specific purpose and rank in the divine plan. Unlike the angels, whose stations are fixed, humans can travel through stations as sayr. But ultimately, every soul has a home in the divine presence. This verse teaches humility within hierarchy. Accept where Allah has placed you. The angel of the rain does not envy the angel of revelation. Contentment with one's station is the secret to celestial peace. Historical ethical insight, ethically. This verse promotes order and discipline. A society without known stations is a society in chaos. Historically, it corrected the chaotic polytheism of the Arabs who thought they could negotiate with various spirits. It teaches us the ethics of functional integrity, doing your specific job with total excellence. Knowing that your station is a trust from Allah. Legal jurisprudential insight, jurisprudentially. This verse establishes the fixed nature of celestial duties in divine law. The angels are legal agents Waqal with specific non-negotiable mandates. This verse provides the legal basis for the infallibility of the angels in their duties. Because their station is known and fixed by Allah, they cannot legally deviate from their instructions. It is the celestial model for the rule of law. Hikam, aphoristic interpretation. The stars don't bump into each other because they know their places. If an angel is happy with a single task for 1 billion years, why are you bored with your prayer of 5 minutes? Your station is not a prison. It is a place where you are most needed by the king. Stand where he put you, and you will see what he sees. Verse 165. The ranks of the glorifiers. Kanzel-Aman, Quran Surah As-Saffat, the arranged in ranks. Chapter 37, verse 165. And indeed we are those who stand in ranks. Linguistic analysis. The angels continue win lana nu ffn, and indeed we are the ones who arrange in ranks. This uses the root gff, which is the very name of this Surah As-Saffat. The double emphasis of in and la highlights their identity as the rank keepers. Linguistically, conveys a sense of perfect alignment, readiness, and collective strength. Exegetical depth. This verse describes the posture of worship. Exegetically, it refers to the angels standing in rows before the throne of Allah, ready to execute His commands or lost in His praise. This celestial rank is the model for the Muslim gaf in prayer. The angels are not a crowd. They are an array. They are arranged by the divine hand. This verse emphasizes the unity and strength of the celestial host. They stand in ranks to show that they are not independent entities, but a single, unified army of mercy. Sufi, spiritual interpretation, for the Sufi. The ranks represent the alignment of the inner world. When a seeker is arranged in ranks, their thoughts, their limbs, and their heart are all lined up toward the Qibla of truth. There is no internal straying. The Sufi seeks to join the rank of the FF by losing their individuality in the collective. Worship of the universe. To stand in a rank is to realize that you are part of something much larger than yourself. This verse is about total integration. When you pray in a row, you are mimicking the highest reality of the heavens. Historical, ethical insight. Ethically. This verse teaches collectivism and solidarity. The most powerful force in the universe is a rank of the sincere. Historically, the Prophet, peace be upon him, used this verse to teach the companions how to stand in prayer. Straighten your ranks. For indeed, the straightening of the ranks is part of the perfection of prayer. It teaches us the ethics of brotherhood, knowing your rank is only as strong as the person standing next to you. Legal jurisprudential insight. Jurisprudentially. This verse is the legal foundation for the gaf row in prayer. It gives the Sharia its celestial template. The requirement to stand in straight rows in the masjid is a legal imitation of the angels. This verse shows that the form of worship is as legally significant as the intent, for the form itself is a divine arrangement. It provides the legal basis for congregational discipline. Hikam. Aphoristic interpretation. A single soldier is a target. A rank is a wall. The angels stand in rows to show that the king loves order. Don't just pray, align your soul. When you stand straight in the row, you are holding the hand of the heavens. The distance between you and the angels is only the distance of your rank. Hadith. The rank of the prayer. To connect the ranks of the angels, verse 165, with our own practice, we look at the prophetic instruction on the congregational row. The Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, said, "Straighten your ranks, for the angels stand in ranks, and align your shoulders. And do not leave gaps for the shaitan." Related in Abu Dawood, Hadith contextualization and analysis. The mirror of the unseen. This hadith is the direct legal application of verse 165. The Prophet, peace be upon him, is telling us that our rank in the masjid is a physical manifestation of the angelic rank in the heavens. The defense against temptation. By straightening the ranks, we are closing the gaps where the tempters, verse 160, to try to enter. The rank is our collective protection. When we stand together, the blazing fire of the ego is extinguished by the coolness of the community. We have moved from the impotence of temptation to the majesty of the celestial ranks. We have seen that the idols can only tempt those already destined for the fire, and that the angels exist in a state of perfect, ranked obedience. May Allah protect our hearts from the temptation of the circle, save us from the affinity for the fire, and place us in a known station among those who stand in ranks for His sake. O Allah, the Lord of the arranged ranks, and the Master of the known stations, we seek refuge in You from the temptations of our own you and the idols of our desires. O Allah, do not let the tempters have any power over us. Make our hearts a fortress of Your dhikr. Save us from having any affinity for the blazing fire of the ego, and wash our souls with the coolness of Your grace. We ask You to reveal to us our known station in Your service, and grant us the strength to stand firmly in the ranks of the sincere. Let our prayers on earth be an echo of the worship of the angels in the heavens. Ameen.